The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Planes, protesters and the police. Hundreds gather at Heathrow's climate change camp. We'll be live to find out what they're planning and how it'll affect passengers.
This is Sky News with Colin Brazier.
Very good afternoon to you. The top story this hour. Planes, protesters and the police. More people are arriving at Heathrow Airport this afternoon at a controversial climate change camp designed to highlight the threat that campaigners say air travel poses to the environment. Police officers have already been onto the site this morning to carry out an inspection. Downing Street's warned that any disturbance of the airport's operations would be unacceptable. Sky's Angela Corp is there at Heathrow, joins us now live. What's the beef with the protesters, Angela?
Well, the protesters say simply that by adding a third runway to Heathrow Airport, keeping up with the government's plans to increase airports by some 100% over the next 20 or so years, all we'll be doing is taking with one hand and giving on the other. It's all very well for the government to say, let's cut our carbon emissions by 60%, but if they're going to keep building more runways, expanding, adding more terminals to airports, then how on earth can we do that? They say it's the biggest growing cause of carbon emissions, and instead of expanding airports and adding new runways, what we should actually be doing is cutting them back and looking at alternative ways of travel. And the protesters we've been speaking to here today say all they want to do is highlight the effects of global warming, the fact that we have other options available to us other than planes, and they're not trying to ruin holidaymakers' valuable holidays this summer.
We're making a real symbolic stand that we believe that this runway cannot go ahead. No airport expansion, no third runway. It's both absolutely madness in a time of climate crisis. So that's what we're doing here, along with obviously bringing together a really diverse community of people who are fed up with government solutions. They're concerned that corporations are hijacking the language of climate change to make new profits, and really want to make sure that solutions to climate change put the needs of people and planet before the needs of profit.
So that's the protesters' point of view. Angela, what are British Airports Authority saying to this?
Well, they see this as a huge security risk to start off with, and also as a danger to passengers, not in terms of physical harm, but in terms of disruption. And we know how busy Heathrow Airport is. It's one of the busiest airports in the world. 1.5 million people are due to pass through it this week. The last thing they need, the sort of scenes that we saw when the fog happened, when that bomb plot was uncovered last year, where we see hundreds, if not thousands of people being forced to queue up outside airports in the rain, under canvases, because their flights have been delayed. And they say they'll do everything in their power to make sure that passengers get on those planes and get out on those holidays.
I think it would be very difficult not to disrupt the operation. The operation is at a critical stage, and with the numbers of people flying in and out, any disruption anywhere in the airport will inevitably have some impact on the passengers. And we're into the business of making sure that our passengers are free to fly and fly in at will.
There was mention there, Angela, of the effect on passengers. Of course, that is at bottom what many people are concerned about. There's a suspicion, I suppose, that these protesters may spike their own guns if they alienate the sympathies of the travelling public.
Indeed, but we're not expecting to see any direct action, as it's called, for the next few days. The camp behind us has been set up yesterday and today. They're asking people not to arrive until tomorrow to begin this week-long camp of activities and workshops on how people can increase their campaigning activities and inform themselves better of the effects of global warming. But they have promised 24 hours of direct action from Sunday at lunchtime until Monday at lunchtime. That's when, of course, things could start to get nasty. The protesters here say they have no wish to put anybody at risk. They're not intending to get onto the runways or break down the fences and actually keep Heathrow safe and secure. But they say they may be forced to break the law, they feel, in order to make their campaign more visible, more audible, and to force the government to take notice. They're not ruling any action out, they're not ruling any action in, and most importantly, of course, they have no control over the 3,000 or so people they're hoping will come here over the coming days. They are asking everyone to decide what action they want to take, think about the consequences and agree a plan of action. But of course, if there are some more extremist groups who come down here who feel that perhaps they do want to break into the airport, none of the protesters here can actually stop them.
Angela, thank you very much. The M40 motorway is still closed this afternoon as police hunt for the killer of a Hells Angel biker. The victim was in his